from the Romanian team. There will be two presentations. First will be mine, and I want to tell you that I'm very happy to announce you that from yesterday, Romania has a pro-European president. This is and it was very important for us, because otherwise it would have been terrible times for us. And I want to tell you that the first 20 years of my life were during the communist times, and I know what means that, to live in an isolated country without the possibility to go outside in other countries other than communist countries. And if someone wanted to escape, for example, swimming in the Danube, would have been killed, would have been shot. So this was happening until 1989. Also, I'm very happy that I'm from Timișoara, because Timișoara was in 20 December 1989, the first Romanian city free of communism. And for this we are very happy also. I represent a cultural organization, ASOANAT, that means the association, the Writers' League, Timișoara Banat branch. I'm its first vice president. And together with me, I have other 6 collaborators and members, and I want to introduce them. With me is Flaminia, which is a PhD associate professor at Faculty of Law, and she will have the other presentation after me. Then is Zaharia, who is a protopop doctor and at Orthodox Metropolis of Banat and cultural advisor and collaborator of National Radio Trinitas. There are 2 teachers with me from National College Bănățean and National College Carmen Silva, Bianca and Nicoleta. And also we have representatives from the young generation. We have Emma and Maria. They are in the 11th grade, and they are here with us in the project because my organization will involve a young generation from many other high schools and universities from Timișoara. As I told you before, National College Bănățean, Francesco Vlad Țepeș. If I say Vlad Țepeș, maybe someone will... It's the name of a theoretical high school in Timișoara, very related to the history, and it's linked to our project. About the association, it's formed mainly by professors or teachers in function or retired, and so we have access to a lot of schools and faculties, and we are very happy that culture is a powerful tool in nowadays for raising awareness and to be involved in this project. Also, I heard these words very nice from the Greek partner. And many things that he said before are linked to our focus and our national path, because we will also focus on Roma minorities. And as he said, in Greece, the fascists took their gold and killed them, but in our country, the communists took their gold. But after the revolution, some of that gold was returned to the Roma people. What I want also to say that I will present in few lines Romania's journey from totalitarianism to democracy in a minute. Oops. And Roma youth and the struggle for equality in Romania today. First, a few lines about our road from 1945 to the present, which has been very complex, because after the Second World War, Romania fell under the Soviet influence, and our king, Regele Mihai, King Michael I, has to abdicate in 1947, and the communists began to rule, and Romania became the People's Republic of Romania. After that, just a few lines, I don't want to get in too many details, we have the regime under Gheorghe Gheorghiu Dej from 1947 till 1965, which means a lot of bad things. The industry had to be nationalized, and the collectivization of agriculture. That means a lot of pain for the farmers and every peasant in Romania, because all they had taken from them. repression of dissident a lot. The communists put into jails most our elita. The intellectuals were put in jail, the Orthodox priests, and it was a lot of bad times, political purges, and creation of a brutal secret policy named Securitatea. In that period, Securitatea, and even when I say Securitatea, if you can see my skin how it is, because we lived regime of terror. We felt that someone watched all our moves. And even after 1989, I want to underline that in one project, I wanted to interview some people who suffered during the communist regime, and they were still afraid to speak. So nowadays, these people were suffered and couldn't speak because they were afraid. From 1989 until now, it's unbelievable. And it's a very good release that our president is Timișoara, because otherwise the other candidates started with blacklist and something like that. And all the people trembled and remembered that all times. It was something, but I'm happy now. And all the others. So after, I can tell you, gradually, Romania distanced from Moscow, and at the ruling came Nicolae Ceausescu has, at the beginning, he has been seen as a reformer. Only in the latest years of his regime, he became more and more dictatorship and make the Romanian people to, not having to eat, to have television. For example, we had television only 2 hours per day, from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, 2 hours per day, and these hours were full of propaganda. So you imagine how much we value now the education, because not hearing only propaganda, and because of that, I wanted in this project, very interesting project, to focus on education and on the Roma minority, Roma youth. This is the lines that we will focus about, and we will involve a lot of young people. So what I want to say, massive debt repayment policies led to shortage of basic goods and energy. At the end, before he was killed in December 25, 1989, our country didn't have zero debt, zero. And nowadays, we borrow weekly billions of euro. But in the end, before the revolution, we didn't have. But for this, Ceausescu starved his people. It was unbelievable that to stay in the queue for some meat to eat and other things. And for example, not having electricity all the time. In another project, Carmen came in Timișoara and saw so many electricity all over after COVID, how come it's to waste? And I replied to her that no, if in Timișoara someone will cut our electricity, we'll be killed, so we don't to repeat that. Timișoara is very close to other European capitals. We are near to Serbia and Hungary, to Budapest and Belgrade, than to our capital. We are open-minded, and our county and Transylvania and Bucharest voted with Nicu, especially, and Transylvania. Yes. Then I want to tell you about the transition to democracy. After the revolution, former communist Ion Iliescu took the power. This was very bad for Romania. It took us many years back. Even when I was a student in Cluj-Napoca at my first faculty, I protested with my colleagues against him. And nowadays he is on trials. Why? Because of June 1990 Mineriad, when he calls the miners to Bucharest against the students and against the intellectuals. And it's still ongoing, this process. He is 95 years old now, but for us it's very important to have this trial. In 1991, the new democratic constitution was adopted, and we have a semi-presidential republic. We have struggles with democratic consolidation. As we became a NATO membership in 2004 and EU membership in 2007, we have our challenges, democratic challenges, because we fight with anti-corruption, and now from then and in the present, because there are a lot of corruption, and I will get, but not now, into details. Civic mobilization, protest, judicial and political reforms, elections, I told you before. And now to focus on our Roma youth. Let me see. Here, Roma communities in Romania. Officially, we have around 3% of them in Romania. But in reality, they are much more, around 80 to 10%, and that makes the larger minority of Roma people from Europe. Why they didn't declare themselves Roma during the census? There are many reasons. I will get into details in the project. Also, I want to tell about the demography of the Roma population, not now, but during the project. And they continue to face systemic discrimination, social exclusion, and poverty. For example, and the stereotypes. When I was a kid, not my parents, but other parents told to their kids, if you do not behave well, we will give you to the Țigan. That was saying used by the Romanians when they want to make their children to behave well. So there are a lot of stereotypes from the beginning during the entire life. Discrimination in employment, healthcare, housing, justice. They are vulnerable of the different, for example, at the police for the racial profiling, social stigma in schools and public spaces, lower access to public services, socioeconomic exclusion. Also, but not only that struggle, we made and some good steps for their inclusion. And at this, I refer to the reserved seats for Roma students in high school and in university. For example, at the medicine school in Romania, there are special places reserved for the Roma young. And this is very important because a lot of them got in higher education and can become a role model for the others. Other thing about education, I want to underline. I want to say that before, the Roma community was very proud with their cars. How nice car have one, how nice car. But nowadays, they started to show, my daughter, my son got an education. They studied somewhere, maybe in the abroad. And this is a very good beginning for them. And I really liked. Other affirmative measures, scholarship, mentorship programs, EU funding and NGO projects, and also introduction of Roma history and culture in curricula. Persistent challenges, there are a lot of them. We will discuss about them. We will get into details during the project because we will have a lot of debates, a lot of artwork and creative writing. We will involve people from, not only from Timișoara, but from all the region. And also we will disseminate national this project because we can do it also by television and radio. And I want to end that education is both the greatest challenge and the greatest hope for transforming the status of Roma in Romania. Sustainable inclusion requires long-term commitment, community engagement, and political will. And of course, because we will rely on the use of art, digital media, and storytelling can challenge prejudice. Thank you. And now, for more details about educational policies for youth and for Roma, I will give the floor to Flaminia.
I can offer a good example for this regime in Romania. When in this regime, that is the communist regime, we had two stations, Free Voice America and Radio Free Europe. My grandfather was very interested in this. When he come every night he put here on the radio, Voice America. Please, you must you must know the truth of Romania. Here is the truth. In the television, it's not. There, it's liar. It's liar. And when they finished the Voice of America, other voice. What do you? No. Europe free, because now other situation very well. Many problems, but it was two-way for to listen the truth of Romania in during regime communism. What a good example for.
So my name is Flaminia. As Anna said, I will begin by first thanking you for co-opting me in this so important project, in my opinion, on the road to democracy, especially as we live such turbulent times, as Anna said, in Romania, which happily finished with a victory of democracy, and we are so proud of it. And as a law professor, I got interested in history because it gives me an explanation for how people relate to law in Romania, for what we call legal consciousness, and why sometimes we don't apply, why sometimes law is ineffective in Romania, and especially when it comes to commercial law or to environmental law that I teach. And I got so into the depths of communism. But for today, I prepared two themes that I will present by reading from some slides, confessions, and quotes from researches that I consulted, because I have to confess that I was only 12 at the year of the revolution, which was in 1989. So that's why I needed confessions from people. The first subject I will discuss is communist educational policies and the youth. Was it indoctrination or emancipation? I will try to answer the question. And the second is the Roma and their communism, formal inclusion, real exclusion. So let's see, first of all, just a moment, because I got lost in the slides. I want to begin with the fact that in many post-communist societies, the legacy of the past remains a contested terrain. Official narratives have often silenced the experiences of marginalized ethnic groups and those who resisted and suffered quietly under authoritarian rule. And that's why I want to present another perspective on youth and the Roma people. I invite, that's why, an open interactive discussion on creating pluralistic remembrances narratives that reflect the full spectrum of experiences under communist regimes. So I will explore how the more memory practices can move beyond nostalgia and condemnation to build shared understanding that foster empathy, civic identity, and resilience. So I will begin with communist educational policies and youth. According to research, the post-World War II Romanian Communist Party's ascent to power was accompanied with a specific interest with the role of education as seen as a tool of reshaping society. And Anna told you about the importance of education in Ceausescu's viewpoint. The new constitution of 1948 called for the nationalization of education and the communist education of youth, a strict control of primary, secondary, and college education, the abandonment of academic independence, and an expansion of education at all levels that would fulfill the needs of industrial development. That's what scholarship says about it. The education reform resulted in the elimination of the abstract and metaphysical disciplines in the secondary education, but not only, and a reduction and elimination of courses on classics, Western languages, religion, and sociology, accompanied by a rise in the number required ideological Marxist-Leninist courses. So the nationalized education was to be atheistic, in a word, and promote Marxist-Leninist principle, and its purposes was to serve the needs of the planned economy. These changes were reflected in the then education law, which tightened state control of both schools and universities even more. And it was the Ceausescu's cult of personality that we remember all these things under this umbrella, which has grown to dominate almost all social life by 1980 in the second part of his dominion. And for instance, an example from the Confessions, but I remember also this, that we have Ceausescu's portrait hanging in every classroom, printed on the first page of every textbook, and we had to praise the great man and leader in the classes and at school events. One of the most important goals of the Communist Party policy was to form the new man, a citizen with revolutionary spirit motivated by socialist revolutionary patriotism, and the party's hope was to attain this ideal by the use of the youth, seen as the vital center of our society. For this purpose, education was very based on obedience and discipline, strict discipline. And I have here some examples. Students addressed the teachers with comrade teacher, and boys had to uncover their heads when greeting them, and all students had to rise and greet a teacher entering and leaving the classroom. Even when sitting at one's desk, you had to hold your hands tight together in the back when no reading or writing at the This indoctrination was, of course, not limited to the classroom. Organizations like the Union of Communist Youth and the Pioneer Organization played also a central role in the political socialization of children. Members were practically compulsory and tightly linked to future opportunities for education and employment. And from confessions of people who were young teenagers during communism, they say the children participated in rituals, parades, and ideological training from a young age. This structured participation functioned both as a disciplinary mechanism and as a means of embedding loyalty. Those who resisted or failed to conform were often marked as enemy elements with consequences for their families. But what is important to underline, however, is that there were forms of resistance from the part of the teenagers. And these appeared as a criticism of ideology and the frustration with the economic hardship that young people went through. Their encounters with Western products and culture, the listening to broadcasts of Radio Free Europe, along with grandparents' romanticized accounts of economic prosperity in interwar Romania, further undermined official discourse about their lives being better and the lives of people living in capitalism past and present. What was a common thread in virtually all personal and scholarly accounts of life was the double discourse, a phenomenon widely noted and analyzed by historians and sociologists. This refers to the simultaneous existence of discourses. And just 3 words about, Roma. Formal inclusion or real exclusion, because the main policies promoted by the Romanian Communist Party that aim at assimilating Roma and Romanian society during socialism were compulsory education among sedentarization and housing systematization and integration to work. Just a few words about compulsory education. The Roma assimilation was to be realized by introducing compulsory education. These accounts are due to oral accounts made by Roma people. Before socialism, the level of education was indeed much more inferior compared to that of the non-Roma. But the problem is that despite the accomplishments which were registered on primary level, the reality of education conditions during the regime was different. The Roma were not allowed to have schools with teaching in their own language, Romani, and were enrolled in Romanian schools where they faced discrimination from teachers and peers. Cultural survival was their form of resistance, the preservation of Roma identity of language and tradition in spite of state policies that aimed at forced assimilation. And despite the fact that language was discouraged and banned in school, it continued to be spoken in families and communities. Nomadic and semi-nomadic lifestyles were kept, although outlawed or repressed, so persisted informally as forms of autonomy, and traditional crafts, music, and oral histories remained alive, even as state programs tried to arise or folklorize them. Just as concluding remarks, the communist system is full of contradictions, was full of contradictions. It promised equality, but enforced conformity. It offered inclusion, but demanded assimilation. It expanded access and narrowed freedom. Despite of this, it's important to note that there were forms of resistance both from the part of the youth and from the Roma people, and forms of overt or maybe covered, but anyway, confrontation of this. Thank you very much for your attention.